From an insurrection at the Capitol to record-shattering fires and floods to the latest COVID variant surge, it is truly hard to encapsulate the year that is 2021. Sometimes a picture really is worth 1,000 words, and Lynsey Addario knows that better than most. The Pulitzer Prize-winning photographer and National Geographic explorer snapped a few of the publication's most remarkable shots this year, documenting human resilience in the face of a pandemic and climate crisis, all shared in Nat Geo's Year in Pictures issue. Lynsey, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So take us through a few of these just incredible shots that you took and tell us the larger story behind them and what was going through your mind at the time.
Well, when I was covering the fires, I had this idea of focusing on women firefighters, because for me, I think the issue of climate change and also seeing the wildfires year after year, it's pretty overwhelming. So for me, I wanted to find a way in for the viewer. And I also focus a lot on women working in sort of fields often dominated by men. So that was my initial idea. CAL FIRE graciously accepted to embed me with their teams. And so I spent 2 weeks on the Dixie fires and the Caldor fire, and really sort of just driving around the front line of the fire, looking for female firefighters, spending time with them, both while they were sort of literally out there fighting fires, doing what they do, and also in their downtime, taking a rest, although they really can't rest when they're on their shifts. But, you know, just those quiet moments that we don't really often get to see.
And we've been just looking at some of the photos here of the infernos, just stunning, yet so bleak at the same time. What were your interactions like with the firefighters? And did they welcome you profiling the women in particular battling the flames?
Yeah, I mean, they were amazing. They were all, you know, this is the height of the fire season, so they were exhausted naturally, but they were excited about National Geographic. I think that it's always nice to be honored to have your work sort of captured for a publication like National Geographic, because it is a historical document. It is something that people tend to keep around in their homes and look back on, you know, over the years. So I think everyone was really excited.
And you've also witnessed the devastating flooding this year in South Sudan that's displaced hundreds of thousands of people. How did you go about capturing what was going on as you trekked along with people desperate to try to save their communities?
Yeah, so this whole year I've basically spent on a year-long climate project, and the initial countries I wanted to cover, they kept changing because of COVID, because of restrictions, and where I was able to get in. South Sudan is a country where I've worked for many, many years, and so I'm quite familiar with it. I knew there was flooding going on there, and UNICEF was able to help facilitate a trip throughout Jonglei, the state of Jonglei, and it was incredible. I mean, there are village after village is submerged. Literally, you see those small tukals, the houses with the thatched roof. People, hundreds of thousands of people have been displaced. Kids are still going to school in completely flooded schools. The interiors are dry, but the exteriors are you know, up to the kids' knees, if not higher. You know, it was just extraordinary to see how people are surviving with, you know, while living up to their waists in water.
And just next door to all that, you made the trip to Ethiopia to document the dire humanitarian crisis unfolding in Tigray as the country's civil war continues to escalate. How did you navigate capturing what was going on as human rights abuses are committed by all sides in the conflict? Was it a fine line? How did you walk it with the soldiers, the guerrilla fighters, and then also civilians all caught in the crosshairs?
Yeah, you know, it's really complicated, because I think the job of a photographer and a conflict photographer or any journalist is to try to get as many different aspects of a conflict that we can get access to. And in the case of Tigray, the Ethiopian government has really just shut down access. And so the journalists who are able to get into Tigray could tell, you know, for me, and when I went in May, I was able to tell that one side of the story. These are the people who have been displaced because of fighting. People were living in shelters. Women have been raped as a weapon of war over and over, I spoke to about a dozen women who had been assaulted, brutally tied up, enslaved at military camps by Eritrean and Ethiopian soldiers. It was devastating. And I think the important thing is for all of us journalists to tell whatever we can in terms of whatever story is going on, so that the viewers and the United Nations and governments around the world have the most complete picture based on our collective coverage.
And lastly, you and your colleagues have certainly documented conservation efforts, resilience, and hope. You in particular have seen so much war and suffering. As we enter this new year, what gives you hope about these harrowing situations that you've seen? How do you kind of turn that around with some positivity?
Well, I think it's always the people that I cover that give me hope. You know, I see people in their most vulnerable moments, and they always seem to have hope, and they always seem to be resilient, and they want to share, because so many of these people believe that if they share, they might be able to help someone else get through their pain. And to me, that provides an incredible amount of hope. You know, I think in terms of COVID, you know, sort of just seems like we're always being hit with something else, to just try to stay positive. I've been covering COVID for the last 2 years. I right now have COVID, and so I'm okay, luckily, but I think, you know, it's really important to try to stay positive.
Well, that is a blessing that you are okay in spite of having that at this time, especially around the holidays. But we thank you so much for really shining this light and your eye, what you're able to capture from many corners of the world that we otherwise wouldn't have access to. So we really appreciate you and your work. And for our viewers, you can find Linsey's photos in National Geographic's Year in Pictures issue online at natgeo.com/photos. The issue is also now available on newsstands.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.